So, as many of us now struggle to figure out how we're going to put content, lectures, and do examinations, given no longer having in-person contact through lectures, I know through talking to various professors, there really isn't a perfect solution for how to give an exam, particularly an engineering exam with problem solving from afar without having remote proctoring. I believe that I can suggest a solution. Now, this is not a new solution. In fact, Jeff Rechtenwald and Ron Averill from the Mechanical Engineering Department have been supportive and been pushing for this use of this software for at least the two and a half years I've been at Michigan State. And initially, I was one of the people to be resistant to using the software because who wants to learn how to use something new and then adapt students to it? And given that my classes were only around 45 to 50 students, I would take the time to grade all the papers by hand and do it in paper form. However, now with having to do the exams afar, it becomes clear that there are at least several difficulties in doing the exams. One is, how do you maintain honor standards and prevent cheating? The second is, how do you get exams to the student and back from the student easily? And the third aspect is, how can you facilitate faster grading? Because if we have to, for example, if I have 50 students and I need to essentially open 50 PDFs or pictures of exams, grade those 50 PDFs, and then email out 50 PDFs, I like to do that as seamlessly as possible. So I'm fully convinced now that Crowdmark is the way to do this. So now through Michigan State, we have access to this program, and it's actually fairly straightforward and easy to use. So I'm going to show an example here of how I've given a practice exam for my particular course, which is ME 441 Aerodynamics. So you just sign into it, given here, and it'll connect through D2L. So Brightspace is the company that runs D2L, and it'll essentially sign in through that. So you go through your normal login procedure. I've already done that previously, so it typically will ask for your MSU username and password, and then the secondary verification. So now I've already added my course for this current spring semester, ME 441 Aerodynamics. But I'll show you if you want to import a course from scratch. You click Import Course up here. It'll connect through D2L and load up a list of all the courses you've had listed on D2L. And so, for example, I'll show you the course when I taught this previously last spring semester in 2019. We can add that course here. Click Import Course. And now it's added the course, but now it needs to enroll the students. So you can either do this manually or do this by just pulling the log of students from D2L via Brightspace. So I can click Sync with Brightspace now. And then it'll give me a list of previous students, their emails, and essentially these are the two things that we need, essentially their name and the email that the assignments are going to be sent to. So at the end of this, I can click Continue. And now it is going to import every student that I had previously registered in that class, keeping track of their name and their email. So I then click Save. So now I have a fully developed enrollment list for this course. And if I click back out here on the top left, now I can see that I'm ready to make my first assessment. So if you want to do that, you can go through the Create Assessment. What I'm going to do now, though, is switch back to my actual current semester. So I'm going to go to My Courses here. And I'm going to go back to the Spring Semester 2020 course. And again, I've mentioned that I've already given one assignment so far as a practice test. So just a few questions so they could get used to how they're going to create these problems. So now let me show you how to create your first assessment. I'm going to do a recreation of this test run, and I'll show you how to make it and upload the questions, and then I'll show you what the results from my test run actually look like from the weekend. So I'm going to create an assessment, new assessment, and we'll call this test run. And it'll be sent to all the enrolled students, and then team members you can add, which could be TAs or another professor who's co-grading with you. Save. Now, there's two types of assessments you can create. The first is administered, which is typically what we do in an in-person setting where you're handing out the exams and recollecting them. But for the majority of us now doing exams from afar, we're going to do these assigned. And so the situation here is that when you do an assigned exam or assigned quiz or an assignment, an email will be sent to the student when you open the exam. And then within the email, there will be a link to the assessment. The student can click on that link. It'll take them to opening the assessment. And then from there, they will solve each of the problems individually and then upload independent solutions separately to each of those problems. And they can do that by scanning it with a scanner, or they can use an app on their phone, like a free one called Cam Scanner, which seems to have good results for taking pictures with their phones and being able to upload and send individual PDFs, email them to themselves, and then upload those PDFs. So a lot of the work in terms of uploading is on the student's part. So the reason why I created this test run or this test quiz was to make sure they got used to this process before they went through it for a real exam. So we'll select assigned, go on to next, and now I need to set a due date. So for example, if I set the due date to be tomorrow at, let's say 1 p.m., so the way due dates work within Crowdmark, they are not hard cutoff deadlines. Students are still allowed to submit assignments after the due date. However, though, a timestamp will be provided to you as the instructor as to when they actually submitted the assignment, and it'll be flagged if it's submitted past that due date. Now you can see here below, you can submit or assign a lateness penalty where a certain amount will be subtracted from the exam per day that they're late, and you can set that to set values that you want. The way I'm operating my exams and quizzes that are being given through Crowdmark is I'll have no penalty, and the timing for the exams are such that for a given exam, they'll have 1 hour to complete it, and then I'll provide an extra 30 minutes so they have time to go through the uploading and scanning process. Hopefully that'll be enough time for them to be able to do that whole upload process. Now the idea is that they're not going to essentially cheat the system and use that extra time to continue taking the exam. So what I want to see is the timestamps within Crowdmark. And Crowdmark does a very good job of providing timestamps essentially for every part of the process. It gives you a timestamp for when they've opened the email, for when they've clicked on the link inside the email to open the assignment, and then it gives time marks for when they upload each individual question as a PDF or as an image, and then when they finally click submit. So what I'm hoping for is that after a given hour, that I'm going to start seeing uploads and submissions for those individual questions. So we'll click continue here. And this is now how I'm going to build my exam. So what I can do then is, what I'm going to do is rather than putting the question content in the form here, is I'm going to have here within this assignment description, I'm going to upload a PDF here. So when I go into my files here, I can upload my practice exam there. And when they click the link from the email, it'll take them to a page that'll give them a link to essentially open that exam. Now, so if you preview it here, you can see what this description box will look like for them. The student will then click on this, and it'll take them to the actual exam sheet itself. So what that sheet looks like is right here. So it's, for me, I've decided to create 2 pages. Again, this system is really going to help with dissemination and collection of exams as well as the grading process. What it doesn't really help with is students adhering to the honor code. So what I'm having the students do is read an honor agreement given by the MSU honor code, and then on the very first page I want them to fill out this statement, to copy it down, and then to sign and date it. So I've neither given nor received any unauthorized assistance on this assignment. And what I define as unauthorized assistance for this is that they don't have people around them. They're not looking at course notes, because my notes are, my exams are a closed book, but they are allowed the following that I give here in items 1 through 4. Page 2 then for this practice was exactly that, the 4 questions that I've assigned. So I told them to draw a picture of an airplane, where could it go in space, and then for them to comment on the MSU football game next season. I also typically give extra credit questions, and I'll show you how you can add this into it. So I've asked them for 5 different things, and I'll award an extra point of extra credit for each one of those. So when they click back within Crowdmark to open this link, it'll take them to that PDF, and that PDF will be downloaded. So in order to create the assessment, you then have to individually upload a question form or a file for each one of those questions. So I'm going to need question 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now you have to put something here in question content, so I always typically say refer to exam sheet. You can set the points the question is worth, and then if you're going to allow bonus points on top of that. So for a normal standard question, I'll assign the normal points as worth, and I won't click bonus. Now I'll click add another question. So question 2, same thing. Question 3, I'll do the same thing, and again, you can change the points per question as needed. And then finally, question 4 in my exam was the extra credit points. So what I'm going to do here is set max points equal to 0, and then click bonus. So now when I'm grading the exam for this particular set of extra credit questions, when I type in the number of points, it's going to add those points to the total overall score. So it'll essentially act as I wish as extra credit. Okay, so within the description for question 1, 2, 3, and 4, you can put the question directly in there if you wanted to. I find it easier for them for me to have an exam that I've already created and for them to refer to that exam sheet. So now here, now that I've done adding all the questions I needed, so if my exam had 10 questions, I would add 10 of these question types into here and the points that are associated. If I want extra credit, I would have to create a question for extra credit, set it to 0 max points, and then have it set as bonus. So when I preview the assignment, this window here shows what the student will see. So you're going to see the title of the exam, and this is essentially the page you're going to see when they click that link from the email. So they're going to see test run, when is it due? Okay, so on Monday at 1 p.m. And then here under assignment description, you can put any instructions you want. And then here it'll have a link to that PDF. So if I click that, it'll open the exam PDF, showing them the honor agreement and then the second page of the actual quiz itself. And then here they'll see that they have 1, 2, 3, 4 questions. The first 3 are worth 10 points each, and the last one is 0 points because it's extra credit. And then below each question, it'll say drag and drop your images or PDFs you can upload here. So what I'm having the students then do is on a separate sheet of paper, write the solution for each problem. So 4 problems, 4 sheets of paper, using a scanner or an app on their phone, such as a free one called Cam Scanner. I'm going to have them take a picture of that sheet and then convert that to a PDF. So they'll have 4 PDFs for this particular quiz. They will then email those 4 PDFs to themselves, and then they can upload those PDFs individually. So the PDF for question 1 goes here, PDF for question 2 goes here, PDF for 3 here, and so on. And then once they've uploaded those, they can click submit. Now as they upload each of these, you'll receive a timestamp for that student for when they did each of these processes, including from when they finally click submit for evaluation. So that was just a preview of it. So now I can click save and go to dashboard, and now it'll create this assessment. So now the question is, how do you distribute it to the students? So now that I've created it, if I want to do that immediately, I could click this email link and it'll email it to all the email addresses as listed through D2L automatically. Or I can schedule for when the distribution needs to happen. So for example, if I wanted to schedule this to go out tomorrow at noon, given that the due date is at 1 p.m., if I only want them to have 1 hour for this, I could send it out at noon. And I could click schedule distribution, right? And then this assessment will be scheduled to be sent out tomorrow. I can change the schedule if I made a mistake, or I can choose to distribute it right now. Okay, so that's how essentially you create a given assessment. So if I go back here to my dashboard, I can see here this is the one I previously created and I've gotten results back, and this is the one that's going to be sent out tomorrow, waiting for students to work on it. So now let's take a look quickly at the assessment that I've already sent out and been distributed. So when I click on this, I've also already graded this assessment. So I can see essentially one student here apparently sent me a comment late. However, though, if you look here on the column on the left, if you look under students, you can see which students have submitted it, okay, which students haven't, and which students in red submitted it late. So highlighted in red. If you pick a particular student, you can see those timestamps for the whole process. So I can see when they first opened that link and took them to the page. Okay, so this is the first time they viewed that assessment. And then I can see timestamps for when they added PDFs or images to each of the questions. And then finally, when they started the upload for the entire submission process and then completed the submission. So this helps me keep track of when the students have been doing this. This also helps me verify for cheating. For example, if a student has already opened the assignment, is working on it, and then wants to try to get more time by sending me an email saying, oh, I never got it. This here, I have evidence now that they have opened it, they have been working on it, and that what they're telling me is a lie. So this is quite useful as an instructor. So all the students are arranged here. I don't actually know the order in which these students have been arranged. I'm not quite sure if they're definitely not alphabetically, but for my class, I have 2 pages of students, and I can see how each of them have submitted or not submitted. Now, if I go over to questions here, I can see this was the description that I provided to them. Here's the PDF of the exam, and then here's an equation sheet that I also provided. And again, here, this is how questions 1, 2, 3, and 4 were listed. If I were to go back here to the actual Crowdmark test run, you can see how the grading is done. So essentially the way Crowdmark works is you can choose to grade all the same question at a time. So if I click question 1, so here's an example of a question 1 submitted from a student, and the question was draw a picture of an airplane. So they've written up top here the honor statement and signed it and dated it and given their solution to the problem. Now there's different ways you can make comments on here. You can either using the tool on the left here, this little freeform draw. I can essentially draw directly on it and answer something. I can also delete it if need be. I can add set sort of symbols like a check mark if I want, or an X, or even a question mark if something doesn't make sense. And I can also, if I want, add an actual comment and type comment in and hit save and deposit it there. To delete it, again, you use the trash can and delete these statements. Now when I'm ready to assign a grade to here, I can type into this box the score. So this was out of 10 points. So the student got 10 out of 10. You can essentially type in any number you want here. Even if you are to quickly move between questions in terms of grading, you can also just out of the prompt itself type in the number, hit enter, save the number, and hit enter again, and it moves to the next paper. You can move between booklets up here, or if you want to move to the next ungraded question, number 1, you can click here down at the bottom right. So by clicking to the next ungraded question 1, you're essentially moving across all of question 1s for all the students at the same time. So once I've graded all of question 1s, I can go back now up here to look at the remaining questions. I can then click on question 2. And then now it'll load the next question 2 for me to see. And again, I can, looking at this question 2, I've already graded it 10 points. And I can either, again, make a comment in freeform using the mouse or stylus, like in a check mark or an X, or I can also add a comment onto that statement. So I can do all these things from within here. If we look back now to the remaining questions, I'll jump ahead to question 4 because this is the one that I assigned as extra credit. So you can see here, question 4, the student has given me several responses, 4 of which were correct. So what I've done then here is on the slot here, typed in the number 4 and hit enter. Notice in this version here, this number is now in yellow, as opposed to all the numbers that were given in green. So the other scores were 10 out of 10. This one, the value is given as 0. However, it has been inputted as 4 points as bonus. So it'll take the student's scores for the other 3 questions seen here. It'll add those up, and then it'll add 4 to the final total, acting exactly as I want it to be as extra credit. Now I've completed the grading of each of the problems shown here. Now I'd like to look at the results, send the results out to the students so they can see their grades, and also send the grades to D12 so that way they can be inputted in the electronic gradebook. So I can click over here in the column on the left under results, and again this will show me here the distribution in terms of percentages or in terms of points. And you can look at how they did for even within a given question. Now I've already sent out the question, rather the grades to the students here. So now that's basically you just click a button there and it goes. If I want to export the grades to Brightspace, I just click here and it takes a few moments, and a little signal down here in the bottom left will tell me if it's been successfully done or not. And there it goes. Now I flip over to D2L for my class page here and look under assessments and grades. I can then see that at the bottom here, Crowdmark assessments, a new object heading has been added with the Crowdmark test run. Now here was arbitrarily given a weight of 10%, and since it was just a test run, I want to set it as 0%. So I can edit both that header topic as well as the quiz itself, the practice quiz exam itself. So that way they just have evidence that it was completed here. Now if I wanted to add an actual exam or actual quiz, opposed to one of these other categories such as quizzes or midterms, I could then go in to this particular item, again edit it, but now I'm going to change the category that it would be assigned to. So if I had a series of quizzes here, you can see here this quiz has maximum 30 points still, but now the weight has been filled in for me. And the reason it's been filled in for me is because I've set the 30% of the final grade to be distributed between 7 quizzes. So each one will be worth 14%. So now if I save and close this, it'll move that up in here into the quiz. And it's easy as that to add it to the gradebook and have it be finally calculated. I hope this demonstration of how to use and implement Crowdmark in your future teaching has been helpful to you. This program has been advocated for by Ron Averill and Jeff Rectenwald in the ME department. I initially was very hesitant and truthfully unwilling to adapt to the system, but I think now in the current paradigm shift that we're adjusting to, with delivering lectures remotely and delivering assessments remotely, Crowdmark actually is quite simple to get used to and implement, and actually handles many of the concerns that I have as an instructor quite well. I think the 3 major issues that we deal with instructors with dealing with exams from afar are 1, adherence to the honor code. And I think, to be honest, we have to have faith in the students of MSU that they're going to adhere to that and have good judgment in terms of how they're going to adhere to that. 2 concerns that Crowdmark definitely help with are 1, dissemination and collection of exams, and effectively how do we grade these as easy as possible as instructors, especially if you have large courses. I think Crowdmark does a good job of handling workflow in terms of disseminating in 1 click to all the students the exams, keeping track of their deadlines and timestamping when they're doing different features of the submission process. It's definitely wonderful in terms of being able to view all the questions at once and seamlessly grade from question to question without having to flip through papers. I think one aspect of using other platforms that I did not look forward to was having to open independently maybe 50 different PDFs, make comments on 50 different PDFs, re-upload 50 PDFs, and then email out or disseminate 50 PDFs. Whereas now, at least once the grading is done within Crowdmark, with another click of the button, you can disseminate all the scores easily to all the students, and then seamlessly copy those scores into the D2L electronic gradebook. So overall, I think Crowdmark provides quite a satisfactory solution to the problem of doing remote testing for the current time. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Again, this is Pat and Allison in the Mechanical Engineering Department. Thank you very much.